Tonight we'll move slowly through quiet night spaces in an ancient land of stone and sand. Tall columns rest in shadow. Carved walls hold the warmth of the day a little longer. The air cools gently as the desert night settles over temples, paths, and still courtyards. We will pass silent statues. We will pause beside dark water. We will drift along corridors where footsteps passed earlier and are now gone. If this calm place feels right to you, you're welcome to like and subscribe so you can return whenever you need rest. Tomorrow you can share where you listen from. For now, there is nothing you need to follow. Nothing you need to remember. Nothing you need to do except let the night carry you quietly forward. A wide stone entrance stands open beneath towering walls. The carved figures along the sides seem softer in the low light. The darkness settles gently into their shapes. The ground beneath is smooth from many sandaled feet that crossed here during the day. Fine grains of dust rest lightly in the shallow grooves of the stone. A faint glow from a distant torch touches the edges of the carvings without brightening them. Most of the passage remains wrapped in deep shadow. The air still carries warmth stored in the stone. It releases slowly into the cooling night. A soft breeze passes through without sound. Somewhere deeper inside the temple, a small echo of shifting wood or settling stone moves briefly and disappears again. A long corridor stretches ahead between tall columns. Their tops vanish into darkness where the eye no longer follows. The spaces between them feel wider at night than they did during the day. Carved patterns along the pillars are barely visible now. The shapes blend into shadow until they feel more like texture than detail. Earlier, many voices and footsteps filled this passage. Now only the memory of movement lingers in the air. A torch rests in a holder against one column. Its glow reaches only a small circle on the floor. Everything beyond remains dim. The sound of your steps feels absorbed by the heavy air. Even the quiet feels thicker here. An open courtyard lies beyond the corridor. The sky above rests like dark cloth. The stone ground still holds a little of the day's warmth. A shallow pool sits at the center. The water reflects a faint glow from a nearby doorway without ripples or movement. The surface looks almost heavier than water, as though it is resting instead of flowing. Low benches line the walls where people sat earlier. Now they remain empty and patient in the shadow. A hanging cloth near one doorway moves slightly in the breeze and then becomes still again. From inside a room comes the slow rhythm of someone breathing in sleep. The sound blends into the quiet air. A narrow passage leads from the courtyard toward the river. The scent of cool water reaches you before the sound does. Stone steps descend gently to the edge. The dark surface reflects faint shapes of columns and walls in a soft blur. Earlier, small boats touched this edge. People stepped carefully onto the stones. Now the water rests undisturbed in the night. Reeds along the riverbank lean toward the surface. A distant lantern across the water creates a dim point of light that wavers gently in reflection. You remain near the water where the quiet feels deeper and more open. Inside a smaller chamber the night feels softer and closer. The carved walls absorb the dim light from a single oil flame. A low table stands near the wall. Small objects remain arranged neatly where someone left them before lying down to sleep. The air is still. It carries a faint scent of oil and stone. A folded cloth rests beside the table. Its edges have not settled completely. The flame flickers slightly and then steadies again. Long shadows stretch across the floor and fade gradually into darkness. From beyond the doorway comes the slow even breathing of someone asleep. Outside again, a path winds between large statues. Their faces rise high, into the darkness. Their features seem gentler at night than in bright sun. A soft glow from a torch near the ground touches the lower part of one statue. The rest remains in shadow. The sand along the path is marked faintly by earlier footsteps. The night air feels cooler here away from the stone walls. The quiet stretches wider in the open space. Farther along, a small garden rests between low stone borders. Sparse plants grow in carefully tended soil. Their leaves barely move as the night air brushes past them. A thin channel of water runs gently through the garden. The surface reflects only darkness. A woven mat lies rolled near the wall where someone sat earlier. The fabric has not shifted since. The scent of damp soil rises gently. The shapes of the plants blend into shadow until they feel like patterns against the dark. A staircase climbs slowly toward a raised platform overlooking the temple grounds. Each step holds a thin layer of dust. From the top, the outlines of walls and statues are barely visible below. The open sky stretches wide above without stars bright enough to draw attention. A faint glow from a distant torch touches only the edges of the stone platform before fading again. The night grows deeper now across stone, sand, water, and air. Small lights from torches and oil flames grow dimmer without going out. Pools of glow shrink into softer circles. The surrounding shadow becomes more welcoming than empty. The air moves more slowly. It carries no new sounds. No changes. Shapes that once felt separate begin to blend together until columns, walls, statues, and paths seem to form one quiet surface without edges or detail. Nothing here asks to be noticed. Nothing asks to be remembered. Nothing asks to be understood. You remain gently inside the calm of this ancient night while the world rests exactly as it should. And as the quiet grows softer still, you can let yourself drift with it. Carried by the stillness of a place where the day's work has ended, the voices have faded, and everything waits peacefully for morning to return again. The air continues to cool as the night settles more deeply across the stone. Warmth leaves the walls slowly and disappears into the open space around you. Fine grains of sand shift lightly along the ground as a soft breeze passes through the courtyard and becomes still again. The torches that once burned brighter now give off only a faint glow that touches the lowest carvings before fading into shadow. The silence here feels older than the buildings themselves, as though it has rested over this place many nights before and will return again many nights after. A long row of pillars stands along one side of the courtyard. Their shapes fade upward into darkness where the eye no longer follows. The stone beneath them holds faint marks where people once leaned or rested during the heat of the day. A clay jar sits beside one pillar where someone placed it earlier. Its outline is barely visible now against the wall. The air here is unmoving. The quiet rests between each column like a soft presence that does not wish to be disturbed. Beyond the courtyard, a narrow passage leads toward another open space where low walls surround a small garden. Sparse plants grow in carefully tended soil. Their leaves barely move as the night air brushes past them. A small channel of water runs gently through the garden. The surface reflects only darkness with the faintest suggestion of motion. Earlier, hands carried water here. Voices spoke softly between these walls. Now the garden rests without sound or movement. You walk slowly along the edge of this space. The scent of damp soil rises gently. A woven mat lies rolled near the wall where someone left it after sitting here earlier in the evening. The fabric has not shifted since. The shapes of the plants blend into shadow until they seem less like leaves and more like soft patterns against the dark. The night here feels calm and enclosed, as though the world has narrowed gently to this small quiet place. Farther on, a staircase climbs toward a raised platform overlooking the temple grounds. Each step holds a thin layer of dust that has not yet been disturbed. From the top, the outlines of walls and statues are barely visible below. The open sky stretches wide above without stars bright enough to draw attention. A faint glow from a distant torch reaches only the edges of the stone before fading into shadow. You remain here for a moment where the air feels open and the quiet stretches outward in every direction. The night continues to soften the edges of everything around you. The shapes of buildings feel less solid and more like gentle forms resting in darkness. The sand shifts quietly along the ground with each passing breeze. Somewhere far beyond the temple walls, the river moves slowly through the night without being seen. The world beyond feels distant and unimportant compared to the calm that rests here inside the stone. As time passes unnoticed, the air grows heavier. The warmth of the day fades completely from the floors and walls. The torches burn lower. The oil flames flicker more gently. Small pools of light shrink into softer circles against the stone. Nothing moves now except the faint shift of shadow and the steady rhythm of breathing from rooms where people sleep. The night has fully settled into this place, and everything rests without effort. You can remain here as long as you like, letting the stillness surround you. There is no need to move. No need to think. No need to follow where the darkness goes. The night simply continues, calm and steady, carrying you gently with it while the world remains at rest. The night air drifts slowly between the stone walls and across the open ground without carrying any sound with it. Fine dust rests along the edges of the path where no footsteps have passed for many quiet hours. The carvings along the walls seem to fade gently into the dark until they feel less like shapes and more like soft impressions pressed into the stone. The glow from distant torches touches only the lowest edges before falling away into shadow again. A low doorway stands open nearby. Inside, The darkness feels thicker and closer than outside. A woven mat lies flat on the floor where someone prepared a place to rest earlier in the evening. A clay cup sits beside it where water was once poured and then forgotten. The air inside the room is still and carries the faint scent of dust and oil. Nothing moves here now except the soft settling of fabric as it cools in the night air. Back outside, the path curves gently between walls that feel taller and quieter as the night grows deeper. A small stone bench rests against the side where someone sat earlier to cool down after the heat of the day. The surface of the bench has grown cool to the touch. A folded cloth lies beside it where it was placed and not moved again. The breeze passes through once and becomes still. Farther along, a narrow channel carries water slowly between carved stone borders. The surface of the water reflects only darkness with a faint shimmer that suggests quiet movement below. Earlier, hands dipped into this water to wash dust away before sleep. Now the channel moves unnoticed through the night. The air around it feels cooler and softer than the rest of the courtyard. A tall statue stands near the edge of the path. Its shape rises high into shadow where the top cannot be clearly seen. The lower part of the stone catches a faint glow from a nearby torch and reveals rough texture where tools once shaped the surface long ago. The rest of the figure remains wrapped in darkness. The statue feels less like a form and more like a quiet presence that has stood here through many nights like this one. The night continues without change. The stone walls release the last of their warmth. The sand settles more firmly against the ground. The torches grow dimmer without going out. The air grows heavier and slower. Everything around you feels as though it has agreed to remain exactly as it is until morning returns. You move gently toward another open space where the sky rests above like dark fabric. The outlines of pillars and walls blur softly into one another. The quiet here feels complete and undisturbed. Nothing calls for attention. Nothing asks to be remembered. The night simply holds the space in calm stillness. The air has grown cooler now, and the warmth that once lingered in the stone has faded completely into the night. The surfaces of walls and floors feel calm and settled, as though they have relaxed after holding the heat of the day. Fine dust rests evenly across the path where nothing has disturbed it for many quiet hours. The faint glow from distant torches is softer than before and reaches only a short distance before dissolving into shadow. A long outer wall stretches quietly along the edge of the temple grounds. Its height disappears into darkness above where the eye no longer follows. Small carvings along the base feel more like gentle patterns pressed into the stone than figures meant to be seen. The quiet here feels patient and steady, as though the wall itself has grown used to standing through countless nights like this. A small doorway sits within the wall, slightly open. Inside, the darkness feels warm and close. A low table stands against the far side where objects were once arranged carefully before the evening came. A folded mat rests nearby where someone prepared a place to lie down. The air inside the room does not move. It feels soft and heavy with stillness. Outside again, the path curves slowly past more pillars that seem to lean gently into the dark. The shapes of their tops blur into shadow until they no longer feel separate from the night sky above. A stone jar rests beside one pillar where it was placed earlier. The outline of its shape is barely visible now, softened by the darkness. Farther on, a quiet open space lies, between two large walls where the ground is covered with fine sand. Earlier, this space carried the sound of footsteps and quiet voices. Now it holds only the soft presence of night air resting across the surface. The sand shows faint marks that have not yet been erased by the breeze. A narrow stairway leads upward along one wall. Each step feels calm beneath your feet. From the top, the view stretches across the temple grounds where shapes blend softly into one another. The faint glow of distant torches marks only a few points in the darkness. Everything else rests in deep shadow that feels gentle rather than empty. The night continues without change. The air moves slowly and carries no sound with it. The torches burn low and steady. The water in distant channels flows quietly without being seen. The sand remains undisturbed. The stone holds stillness like a quiet memory of the day that has now fully passed. You remain here for a moment where the quiet feels complete. Nothing asks for your attention. Nothing asks to be followed. The night simply continues, calm and steady, surrounding everything in soft darkness. As time passes unnoticed, the world around you seems to grow softer at the edges. Walls, pillars, statues, and paths begin to blend into one gentle surface of shadow and calm. The air feels heavier, slower, and more peaceful. Even the faint light from the torches feels like it belongs to the darkness rather than standing against it. You can let yourself rest here inside this quiet place. There is no need to move. No need to think. No need to follow where the night goes. The stillness carries you gently while the ancient temple rests exactly as it should until morning returns again. The night has settled so completely now that even the smallest details feel softened by the darkness. The edges of walls, pillars, and doorways blur gently into shadow where the eye no longer tries to separate one shape from another. The air feels calm and steady, as though it has slowed to match the stillness of the stone around you. A faint breeze passes once through the courtyard and then disappears without leaving a trace behind. A quiet path leads toward another section of the temple where the ground is covered in smooth stone worn by many footsteps over many years. Earlier, this path carried the movement of people finishing their work before nightfall. Now it rests empty and undisturbed beneath the dim glow of a distant torch. The sound of your steps feels softer here, as though the night itself absorbs any movement before it can travel. A tall doorway stands at the end of the path, open to the dark space beyond. Inside, the air feels even heavier and more still than outside. A woven mat lies flat on the floor where someone prepared a place to rest. A small clay lamp sits beside it, its flame burning low and steady without flicker. The light from the lamp touches only the nearest part of the wall before fading into shadow. Back outside, the open sky stretches above without drawing attention. The darkness feels calm rather than empty. The shapes of the temple walls seem to settle deeper into the night as though they belong there completely. The sand along the edges of the path has smoothed itself where no wind has passed for some time. Farther along, a narrow channel of water moves slowly between carved stone edges. The surface reflects only darkness, but you can sense the quiet motion beneath. Earlier, this water was used to wash dust from hands and feet before sleep. Now it flows gently through the night without being seen. A row of statues stands near the edge of the courtyard. Their faces rise into shadow where the features are no longer clear. The lower parts of the stone catch a faint glow from a nearby torch, revealing texture shaped long ago. The rest of each figure blends into the dark until it feels more like presence than form. The night continues to deepen without changing. The torches burn lower. The air grows cooler. The warmth of the day has completely left the stone. Everything rests exactly where it was left hours before. Nothing moves except the slow shift of shadow as the light fades gently. You can remain here inside this quiet place where the ancient temple rests without effort. There is no need to think about what came before or what will come after. The night holds everything in calm stillness while time passes unnoticed. As the hours move quietly forward, the world around you feels softer and less defined. Walls, pillars, statues, and paths blend into one gentle surface of shadow. The air feels heavier and more peaceful. The faint lights from the torches feel like part of the darkness rather than separate from it. You can let yourself drift here, carried by the stillness of this ancient place where the work of the day has ended and everything waits peacefully for morning to return once more.